Whether it's cars, comics, video games, or violins, there's a little geek in all of us. It's time to give your geek a voice. It's time for Geek Therapy. Here's your host, Johnny Hemberger.
Welcome to Geek Therapy Radio. I'm your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger, as usual, whether you're listening to Geek Therapy Radio at the actual broadcast time of Saturday night, right here on, Sunday morning, right here on KPRC 950 AM, midnight Saturday night, that's what I like to say, 12 AM Sunday, whatever, midnight Saturday night. Right here on KPRC 950 AM, or you might be listening on the podcast, which I know a lot of you do, so whether it's morning, evening, or afternoon, thank you for listening. This is going to be a very short first segment because I have Matt Farah on the program today, and we recorded so much good geekiness that I'm just going to get to as quickly as possible because it was a long one, and I can't possibly fit it all in an on-air broadcast in 1 hour. So I'm just going to plug the social media: Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook, Geek Therapy Radio on Instagram, Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube. Follow, like, and subscribe, all that stuff. Geek Therapy KPRC on Twitter. During this break, since I'm going to go to commercial break right now for just a couple minutes. In those couple minutes, if you're not driving, go like and subscribe to all the social media stuff. I'd love to have you. But without further ado, we're going to hit these commercials real quick and come right back with Matt Farah of The Smoking Tire, and we are going to geek out about cars. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. I'm still your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger. This evening, this afternoon, or tonight, whenever you're listening to this, whether you're listening to the actual radio broadcast tonight on Saturday night, or you're listening to the podcast in the shower, as you know, you can take me in the shower with you. I'm not opposed to that. But as promised, I have the Matt Farah with me from the Smoking...
Hello.
Yo, what's up? From the Smoking Tire and other ventures, which I'm going to let him plug here in a second. But Matt, I'm just going to let you take it away and describe what you do and what you're into and what you're a geek about. So take it away, man.
Hi. What's up, Johnny? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great.
Good.
What am I into? I'm into cars.
Yeah.
I spend all day, every day, pretty much talking about cars.
Yeah.
And I make YouTube videos about cars and a podcast, and I write, and I'm opening up a collector car storage facility in LA. It's all cars all the time over here.
I'd read about that, and the first thought, and please forgive me, the first thought that came to my mind, because I think I saw someone make a comment about it. Maybe it was on Instagram. You were showing some pictures of a hammer, of a sledgehammer or something like that.
Oh yeah, my girlfriend Hannah gives me really good gifts, and so she got me a sledgehammer. So because I bought a piece of dirt here in LA, it's not actually dirt. I bought a crappy old building in LA for the price of the dirt, and I'm going to take the ceremonial sledgehammer to it very soon, where we're going to build West Side Collector Car Storage is going to be my new business.
Man, that's awesome. So you're going to have a website and all that good stuff for it?
Yes, we will. And right now, if you go to that site, it just says that someone bought it, and that's me. It doesn't. We got to build the building, but yeah, no. For now, it's YouTube videos and television shows and radio about cars.
Right. So the garage and the website is literally under construction.
Yes, both are fully under construction.
Exactly. So I saw someone drawing the parallel. They're like, "So Matt, you building a garage Jay Leno style?" And I was like, man, that's a whole fleet. That's something that we all got to aspire to.
Yeah, no, that's Jay Leno, is a man who has no end to his bank account.
Oh yeah.
And
right.
I've met Jay a few times. He's a great guy, and he's a true enthusiast. Jay has a warehouse full of his stuff.
Yeah.
My building is a business for other collectors to keep their stuff.
That's a very important distinction to make. Yeah, I'm glad yeah.
Yeah, no, I bought, we're going to be the first indoor 4-high stacking system in Los Angeles.
Awesome.
So those cool stackers it's like a Connect 4 set, but for cars?
See, what I was first thinking of, I think I know what you're talking about, but, like boat marinas, they use forklifts basically to take people's boats off the rafters. But I'm sure yours is all automated. There's no forklifts running around in there picking up cars.
No, it doesn't actually. It does. They don't actually work that way. There are some systems, like crazy commercial garages for like super busy shopping malls in Hong Kong.
Right.
You know, where it's like the vending machine.
I was just gonna ask about
thing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, those are $50 million.
Right.
And those systems are actually designed for very high turnovers, like malls or restaurants and where people are going in and out constantly.
Right.
Our systems are designed by a company called Park Plus, and they're for a longer term storage. So you drive one on, it goes up. You drive one under it, they both go up. You drive one under, the three go up. You know what I mean? It's you do actually, unfortunately, have to take cars out to get one off the top rack.
Right.
But you know, that's the difference between a $60,000 lift and a $60 million lift.
Yeah.
You know,
dude, that's nuts.
I don't have an extra couple of zeros to work with. I only have a certain number. I'm a thousandaire.
Right. Right. I get it. So
no, but I got a bunch of those racks, and I've allowed myself one rack. That's what I can have. And so I'm going to have the mat rack, paint to sample, you know, the whole deal.
Yep.
And then other customers will be able to rent out the other spaces. And by the way, if there are prospective geeks out there in LA who've got cars and have nowhere to store them, email me, matt@thesmokingtire.com, and I will happily put you on our mailing list.
Absolutely. By the way, plug whatever you want. I'm all about it. So do whatever you want on here.
Just search The Smoking Tire if you're interested in cars. We have a YouTube channel and a podcast, and I do Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. And if you're interested in cars, search for The Smoking Tire. And you know, I'm pretty straight up. I don't really have two personalities. I only have one. So you get the one all the time.
Right. There's no BS. That's one reason why I love your car reviews, because obviously you know what you're talking about, but the way you describe it, it's very accessible to somebody who may not be as intimately knowledgeable with how an actual combustion engine works. Like, you know, the force cycles, they may not know all that, but the way you describe doing your runs, is it called the Snake? Is that what you run up and down there?
That is a famous road in Malibu. I don't actually use. Yeah, I don't use that particular road. I drive in what we call the canyons, which is basically the mountains that surround LA.
Right.
We have some of the best roads anywhere in the world, honestly. Yeah. And they're really nice. We're very spoiled. It's hard for me to go anywhere else and make videos because they don't have the conditions that we have here.
Right. I was going to ask about that in a second. First, I used to live in Simi Valley for a little while, so I've been around LA. I know it a little bit. I'm here in Houston. I've lived in Houston, you know, most of my life, but for a few years, was out there in Simi, and before that, when I was a baby, for another couple years. When funny side story, my dad used to be a reporter for Entertainment Tonight back in the day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. How interesting.
Yeah. So we were in Thousand Oaks. So I learned to walk in California, probably during an earthquake.
Yeah.
So
that's where you get your legendary stability by learning to walk. So now, if you're in Houston, now they race on highways down there. They have a whole other set of priorities in Houston.
Oh yeah. It's an entirely different beast. Now, the last time I was in California, it was right after high school, and the vehicle I had was a Dodge Dakota.
Okay.
So I had the pickup truck, and I remember driving back and forth from Simi Valley through Northridge. Over the hills to Malibu, basically, to the PCH. And I remember thinking, being in my truck at 19, 20 years old, I was like, man, this is not the best vehicle for these gorgeous roads, like, you know, driving through the canyons and driving over the mountains and stuff.
People who live up there, people who live up in Malibu have great daily drivers. Every year at least one car company does a commercial, wherein the wife keeps asking the dumb husband to like go for groceries over and over, and he's like, oh, I forgot the avocado, and then he like whips down the canyon and whips back, and he's like, oh, I forgot the eggs, and down the canyon and back, and the whole commercial is the husband pretending to forget things at the store and like whipping the canyon every day, and like that would be me if I lived up there.
I was gonna say that would be me too, and I know it's an Infinity commercial right now that I'm thinking of.
That's the current one. I think it's the Q60 Red Sport. Yeah.
Which
there's another one. No, there's another similar take on it. There's a Jaguar F-Pace one that just came out. Did you see that one?
The SUV, right?
Yeah. And the guy gets the F-Pace for his wife, and she's like, ooh, and she starts it up, and it's got like 1,000 miles on it, and she's like, why are there so many miles on it? And then it's just like a montage of this dude like mobbing. Yeah. So that's what driving in Malibu in the mountains is like. Yeah.
So my car history. We're gonna get into this now. Car histories. We share a common bond, you and I, in our car history, and I'm not talking about a Fox Body Mustang or Mercedes or whatever. I was going to say Eskimo brother of cars is, can I say that? I think it's at past the watershed.
Did we bang the same car?
Yes.
Do you have sex with vehicles as well?
Pretty much.
What car?
I had a 1980, I still own it. I've had it for 17 years so far. 1983 DeLorean.
Oh, you do have a DeLorean?
I do.
How do you like it?
I'm a host of Geek Therapy Radio. Of course I got a DeLorean.
Appropriate.
So I was going to ask, I'll tell you how I feel about it, because I'm really, really interested in how you felt about it. But let me just tell you how I feel about it first.
Okay.
Having still owned it, I got it in July 2000 when I was 17 years old, and it was less than 10. It was less than 10 grand. It was less than a used Honda Civic.
That's great. You were the coolest kid in high school, huh?
Dude, I delivered pizza in it for 2 years.
That's so awesome. In Houston or in LA?
In Houston. No, I didn't bring it to LA.
Yeah.
In LA had
it would be the most LA thing ever to deliver pizza in a DeLorean. With like a hipster mustache,
Dude.
like a handlebar mustache, and like, vintage boots that cost $300, but your mom makes you deliver pizzas.
See, exactly. See, I had to start parking it around the corner from people's houses, and I would just huff it like the last 100 yards or whatever, because when I would park it in front of their house, they'd be like, the pizza guy's doing better than I am.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have time to explain to you how cheaply I got this and all that kind of business. So
your story exemplifies one of the reasons I sold my DeLorean. Not that I was worried about looking rich, but that everyone wants to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And unless you're prepared for that, like, you kind of seem like an asshole if you don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
With people, but like sometimes you got somewhere to be. Like, and I got very, very. First off, I love DeLoreans. DeLorean was my first car. Not my first car. Excuse me. It was the car that made me love cars.
Your first dream car.
Yeah. And to this day, I mean, I think they're just stunning looking, especially when they sit at the correct European ride height.
Right.
And so. The U.S. ride height on DeLoreans is a completely other story, but if you ever wonder why some DeLoreans look like tractors, it's because of the pedestrian impact standards in the U.S. that Europe didn't have at the time. So when I got some money, it was like, I think it was my 31st birthday or 32nd birthday, and I've had saved up enough to get one. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is it. I'm getting it. And I went through DMC. I'm sure you know Stephen Cameron Wynn very well at DMC.
I've known Stephen forever. Yeah.
Forever. So for those non-DeLorean nerds, Stephen Wynn owns DMC, which is they bought all the rights to DeLorean. All of it. They bought all the tooling, not the tooling. They bought all the body panels, like everything left from the company when they went out of business.
Yep.
He bought it. Can I drop F-bombs on your show? Is that okay?
I'll beep it out. That's fine.
I apologize.
It's all good.
And if you're ever in Houston and you're a nerd, you have to go to DMC because it will blow your mind.
If you even appreciate, even if you don't like DeLorean specifically, if you're a car nut like at all in the slightest.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing ever. It's really neat to go there because it's huge, and they've got racks and racks and racks of DeLorean engines and body panels and everything. And so I love those guys so much. They were so nice to me. And when they opened up a shop in California, Cameron, the son, now runs DMC in California here.
Yep.
My DeLorean was the first restoration they did there.
That's awesome. I went to high school with Cameron. I didn't know Cameron. I didn't know Cameron in high school, but there was, after I got my DeLorean, I saw like one other one, cruising around our neck of the woods up there in Kingwood. Yeah. I was like, who the hell owns another DeLorean? Like, I thought, because I got it. One of the reason was nobody has a freaking DeLorean. So it turns out the only other, I didn't know that Steven lived up in Kingwood, or that at least that Cameron went to Kingwood High School.
That's so funny. You could have got the hookup early.
Dude. Yeah.
You definitely could have got the hookup early. I got the hookup from them in exchange for publicity, which was very nice, although it was still an expensive restoration, my car.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing about the DeLorean is like mine was almost too nice to drive. And that's from someone like me, like that's silly. Like it wasn't too nice to drive. It was just really, really, really nice.
Yeah.
And on top of being really nice, it had every single box ticked for a hardcore collector.
Right.
It had all this paperwork. It was a barn find. Like everything that needed to be original was original, and everything that needed to be fixed or improved or whatever was improved or whatever. Like it I don't want to use the word perfect but it was as close to perfect as you're going to find for a reasonable amount of money.
Right.
Anyway, and they went soup to nuts on the car.
Right. We'll wrap up the segment with this, what we're talking about right here. It's going along the thread of what you're talking about. Your initial, I saw the video after you got the DeLorean back from restoration, and one of the things I adored about yours was an 82, right?
It was an 81.
81.
No. I'm sorry. I'm 80. It was an 83. I was an 83.
Yeah, because I was like, it has a flat hood, and the flat hood
it
is
was an 83.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a door flap hood?
No, it's 83. Interestingly enough, for people who don't know DeLoreans, if you open up the hood, you can see the cutout. The template. Where
it was.
Yeah, of where it was, and they're just like, screw it. Anyways,
DeLoreans are full of weird. There's Easter eggs in every single car. My car is an 83, but inexplicably had the air conditioning controls from an 81.
Yeah.
It was never replaced or anything. I have all the paperwork. Like it was like that from new. It was so weird.
As I understand it, the 83s were basically they're basically the rejected 81s and 82s that they kind of like, for whatever reasons they couldn't ship out. They just kept them in the factory, so they went back over them and kind of refurbished the parts and fitted them with like the newer like fixed parts that they learned their lessons from with the 81s and 82s. So the 83s were pretty good, but they were a hodgepodge of. That's why you had the controls from the AC controls from 81.
Yeah,
because
there's like, they built these cars for 2 years. There's like 4 different exhaust systems, 3 different hoods, 2 different interior door panels, 3 different gauge clusters, 2 different climate controls. It's such a ridiculous system, but ultimately what made me sell my car was in LA we have 2 types of driving, okay? Hardcore, 100 yards at a time, light to light, terrible, miserable traffic, and those canyons that we were talking about earlier. The DeLorean is good at neither of those things.
It's good at cruising.
It's good at going exactly in between those 2 things, such as the conditions that you have in Texas.
Right.
Now, in Houston, a DeLorean is a lovely cruiser. Lovely cruiser. And if I lived in Houston, or if I lived in, anywhere that didn't have such a black and white difference in driving conditions like LA, the DeLorean would be a lovely car to own. But in LA, it's horrible in traffic and it's horrible in the canyons because the chassis just isn't very good. And actually, it wasn't the power, it was the brakes. The brakes are excuse me again. The brakes are horrible. And so because I didn't like driving in the canyons, and because I didn't like driving in traffic, and because I don't have unlimited storage space yet, it did have to go. And it was so nice. I learned a lesson. My friend Patrick did a painting of it, and the painting is hanging over my bed
Right.
And the satisfaction I get from owning a DeLorean and the satisfaction I get from the painting of my DeLorean are exactly the same.
Really?
Yes, 100%. I look at the painting every day and I go, what a pretty car. That's a beautiful car. And that's what I like doing with the DeLorean sitting in my garage. I would go down there when I went to get another car and I'd look at it and I'd go, this thing is cool.
I do the same thing. I open up the garage and like I said, I've had it for 17 years. And the feeling of when you open the garage door each day, I'm going to cuss here because I'm already beeping stuff out anyways. Open the garage door and it almost catches me by surprise. I say, holy that's a DeLorean.
Yeah.
Like every single time. It still captures that. Matt, let's wrap this segment up and then we'll move to another segment so I can keep them separated.
Yeah.
Because there's one more point I want to bring up about your DeLorean in particular that I will in the next segment. But geeks, stay with us. The conversation is getting
nerdy.
Getting dirty. I was gonna say sexy, but one way it's all the same. So geeks, stick around. I'm talking to Matt Farah of the Smoking Tire, and I knew once we touched on DeLoreans if we were gonna go for a while on it, which is perfectly fine. But stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. I have still got Matt Farah because he is just being an angel from the city of angels, giving me his time to geek out about cars. Although I haven't met too many angels who drop F-bombs like Matt does, but it's fine.
Sorry. I'm a dirty, awful boy.
No, man, I specifically before we got into this, I was like, I am because I listened to your podcast, several times, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to tell them. I don't want people to censor themselves. If we were live on the air right now, of course, as well as I do. I
really, really could if I have to, but I'm not very good at it. When I was growing up, I used to get yelled at for having a filthy mouth all the time, and now and that is like the defiant side of me. It's just like, you know what? I'm gonna earn a living with this filthy mouth, so you can,
So right, I'm not going to ask anybody to censor themselves because it's refreshing to me almost in this day and age. Now, I wouldn't go to some sort of mixed company formal thing and be dropping F-bombs or anything like that, but recording a podcast, recording a radio show, it doesn't bother me at all. So, what I was going to get at with the DeLorean before I had to cut it off for the break was what I adored about what you did with yours. And if anyone's listening, just catching us right now, Matt had a DeLorean, like I still do. He got rid of it for various reasons. Go back to the podcast and listen why. But when he had it, what I love that you did to it when you restored it is you didn't... Let me put it this way. You know that show Overhauling?
Oof, yeah. Nice people. They're nice people who make that show.
Right.
But I know what you mean. You mean on like Pimp My Ride? That kind of thing?
It's like, I love the fact that you didn't put all sorts of destructive... You left it original, completely original. And when you were describing it after you got it back from restoration, you're like, look, here's a little tiny imperfection that I left here because it's only new once. And I adored the fact that you left... It's just a real, perfect example of a DeLorean. All the fit and finish and the panels were just so nice. Like, it's what a DeLorean should have been all along, and that's how you left it, and that's what I loved about it.
We made it like new plus, like the things that needed to be original and were in. I mean, basically everything you'd see on my car, the body panels, the glass, the carpeting, the floor mats, the complete interior, with the exception of the headliners on the doors. Mm-hmm. Everything else in that car was original, and then we took the original engine apart. And we put their, quote, stage 2 engine kit on it, which sounds, a little tunery, but it's basically heads, cams, headers, a better injection system. And then they replace all these, like, plastic tanks with metal tanks and metal lines and metal fittings. And they go through, they massage it a bit, and so you go from 135 to about 210 horsepower.
Yeah.
And it sounds pretty cool. They make with the exhaust. It sounds sort of like a Ferrari Dino, actually.
Right, nice and cammy.
It sounds like it's got a good caminess to it. It's at idle. It almost sounds like a Porsche, and then when you wind it out, it almost sounds like a Ferrari Dino, or like a Lancia or an Alfa V6. And then it was cool. Like it was a lovely car. It just, the problem I have with, I don't have a problem with anything. People can do anything they want with anything, with any car they have, and I could care less. But a lot of people think about engine swapping DeLoreans, which seems like a good idea because if you read about them, the most common complaint is that they are not fast.
Right.
Which they are not fast.
Correct.
But what you don't hear about is that them being fast isn't actually the biggest problem, because I've driven several different, quote, fast DeLoreans. Right. Including one that had like a twin-turbo Grand National motor in it.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Supposedly made like 550 horsepower, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay, great. Except what happens to the chassis? Do you know, if you look up what a DeLorean chassis looks like, and I'm sure, Johnny, that you are well aware of what a DeLorean chassis looks like.
Yep.
It shares the chassis with a car called a Lotus Esprit.
Hell yeah.
Which, it's funny that the Lotus Esprit is known for good handling. I just recently drove one at a racetrack in Texas, actually, north of Dallas.
Yep.
And it handled like garbage. It handled like absolute garbage. And the Y-frame chassis that the Lotus Esprit shares with the DeLorean is a garbage chassis, because it's basically one I-beam running down the center with a fork at either end.
Right.
And so if you put power through one, all it takes is the torsion on one piece of metal, and you've now twisted the chassis.
Exactly. But modern DMC in Houston and
Houston
California,
DMC, yes.
aren't they working on a new composite, like fiberglass chassis?
Right. So now we go into how the car's actually constructed. So there's the Y-frame chassis, and then on top of the Y-frame chassis in original cars goes basically a fiberglass underbody that looks like most of a DeLorean if it were black. Right. Without the doors. Okay, so and then the body panels, which are stainless steel. Jesus, excuse me. Wolf.
Yeah. Come on. Come on, Matt.
That was almost like sacrilege there. They are stainless steel. They are not aluminum.
Right.
They go on top of the fiberglass thing. Now, the body panels themselves are non-structural, with the exception of the doors. And so what DMC Houston is working on, I think, is that fiberglass structure. They are having it remade in carbon fiber, so it actually becomes a structural member. Right. In theory.
So you don't get the torsion. Because
that's the theory. Yeah.
They're developing. I think they're still working out the details of who the supplier is going to be. I haven't asked Steven in a few months about this, but they're sourcing an engine 300 to 400 horsepower. Last I checked, and my first thought was, okay, so you want to make 2000 quote unquote 2018 VIN number DeLoreans. They're not technically brand. Well, I guess they are and there aren't. It's new old stock that they're retrofitting.
It's this low volume manufacturer thing.
Right.
They can sell up to 300 cars a year without them requiring modern safety standards. So they don't even put airbags in them or crash test them. And they sell them as the layman would say kit cars. Technically, they would not be kit cars. They would be like low volume production cars. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
That's all right. So my first thought when they were sourcing, they said, the new motor to fit modern EPA standards and everything is going to be between 300 and 400 horsepower. And my first thought was the frame of the DeLorean. I was picturing a DeLorean just twisting like a pretzel anytime you put your foot on the accelerator. It's like
100%.
They're going to have to do way more structural bracing, and like how are they going to put, like, maybe a roll cage would help? What are they going to do to the DeLorean's DNA to make it handle?
Because of the way the doors work by going into the middle of the roof. I mean, you can't really put a cage in one. I mean, maybe you could, but I don't know how much structure it would actually add, being that I don't think there's anything really metal for you to weld a cage to.
It's so
like where would you weld the cage in a DeLorean? I don't even know if you could.
Right. So that was the question, and that's what they're going to have to be figuring out. As the British would say, the boffins have to figure out how you're going to handle the 400 horsepower in a DeLorean.
It has to be a carbon monocoque underneath the stainless steel panels. But I mean, dude,
they're going to have to figure it out.
Dude, your car, I know. Anyone who's driven a DeLorean knows, okay, that whatever you have to do to one to make it drive great is not worth doing.
Right.
Everyone who's ever done it has the same story. The problem with owning a DeLorean and being a quasi-celebrity like you or I is that anyone else who sees something about a DeLorean goes, hey, I can connect with this celebrity on this level. But the problem is 10,000 people send me the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. We've seen it all. You've seen everything there is to see about DeLoreans. I've seen everything there is to see about DeLoreans, okay?
Yeah.
And yet, once a month, someone emails me the link about the guy who put the LS motor in the DeLorean.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, you should have done that.
Yeah.
Dude, you ever hear one peep from that guy about how that car actually drives or gets around a corner or anything? Like, dude,
I
you
heard
put an LS motor in a DeLorean, you put your foot to the floor, that car is going to tear itself in half.
Right. The other thing I did hear, and he had a YouTube video he put out. He said, what truly makes it terrifying is like what you said earlier. The brakes are terrible.
The brakes.
The brakes are like a cement truck's brakes.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like.
The front wheels are 14 inches. And they're single piston caliper. There is simply nothing you can do. There's a company in England actually that makes some upgraded brake kit for the DeLorean. It's like a full, it's a new rotor, a new caliper, and lines, and all this stuff. And I asked Steve Wynn at DMC about that kit, and it was like $6,000. It was a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And Steve Wynn was like, yeah, I drove on one once. It was whatever. And I'm like, I don't want whatever for $6,000. And he was like, there's just nothing you can do. A DeLorean, you can add a little bit of power, you can change the sound a little bit, but there's just nothing you can do to them to make them really drive good at anything but a cruise. And
so here's my appreciation. Here's what everyone listening needs to know about DeLoreans and about a lot of classic cars. For instance, the biggest knock on the DeLorean is it's not fast. No, it's not fast. But if your criteria of what's a great classic car is just what's fast and what's not, you're going to have to eliminate 90% of your list because
you have to eliminate any car built before 2005.
Exactly.
I mean, really,
exactly.
Anything that was fast before 2005 is. If that's your objective measure,
right?
Everything's a hunk of crap.
The new Tesla Roadster is supposed to do 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. Our definition of what's fast and what's not, is completely screwed now. So what I'm saying is, with the DeLorean and other classics, you need to just appreciate them as like works of art, just as classic cars, as something unique to love and behold and look at and appreciate. I'm not taking my DeLorean.
You can certainly look. There are certain cars that take to modifications pretty well, you know, and there are certain cars that you can make them go a little quicker, make them handle better. I mean, I've driven, my share of resto mods. I've driven 68 Camaros that will smoke a Ferrari 458. You know what I mean? You could do anything with almost anything.
Right.
But just for DeLoreans, I have to say there are a lot of things that make that car unique.
Right.
But those things that make that car unique also hamper your ability to quote improve on. There's not a point. I think even if you're a pretty serious enthusiast, your money could be spent on any other number of things. You could buy a DeLorean and a 911 for what it would take to turn a DeLorean into something that handled like a 911.
Right, exactly. There's only one mod that I would consider doing to my car, and we'll get out of this segment and we'll get into the next segment after this.
If you have any audience left on this one,
there's probably still a couple people just hanging on.
Yeah.
Next segment we're not talking about DeLorean, so anyone listening, just stick. I promise we'll get to we'll move on a little bit. The only thing I do to the DeLorean is, well, there's two things. One, just get it up to 200 horsepower. I have been in the 130 horsepower DeLorean stock, in a 200 horsepower DeLorean. 0 to 60 in around 6-7 seconds in a 200 horsepower DeLorean is it's night and day difference from bone stock.
Yeah, it's like the difference between horrible and okay, it'll get out of its own way.
Right, it's a difference between horrible and now it can keep up with a Camry. Maybe.
Yeah, it like also makes it sound a lot better. It sounds real cool with the headers and the proper exhaust on it.
Right. Yeah. So I do that, and I would also look into some sort of way to beef up the brakes just a little bit.
There isn't. I mean, there just
I know.
Isn't.
We just talked about it.
You can, even if you got a high performance pad and a high performance fluid, that will help you with repeated stops, which is an issue. I mean, certainly I would do that no matter what. But literally, the only options available. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't know why someone wouldn't have done it already, but the Esprit brakes could be better than the DeLorean brakes, maybe.
Just any improvement, like stopping by an extra 30 feet would be.
30 feet is a lot. That's a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
It's you got to look far ahead in one of those cars.
Right. But my first car was a Volkswagen Beetle, a 1974 Beetle.
Oh my God.
I know all about
slow.
But also, if you're talking about bad brakes, the brakes in an old Bug are truly, like, legitimately horrifying.
Yeah. Yep. I know. I anything. Oof. I don't like Beetles.
No.
I don't like Beetles at all.
Okay. Well, that's it for this segment. We'll wrap it up with the last segment here. Couple of commercials we'll play that Matt and I will be oblivious to because the magic of recording radio. We'll just get right back into it. So, geeks, stick around while you're at it. If you're not driving, go to thesmokingtire.com. Is that right?
Yeah. You can get to all of our media from thesmokingtire.com.
Right, all the YouTube, all the social, all that good stuff. So in this break, go follow, like, and subscribe to all of the Smoking Tire stuff. And also, type in Geek Therapy Radio while you're at it. And go like all my stuff, too. And I promise, in the next segment, we'll wrap it up. We're not going to talk about DeLoreans anymore. I'm going to put my foot down. I could talk about DeLoreans for hours and hours and hours on end, but that's not interesting to a whole ton of people. In big bursts, 30-minute bursts. So we're going to talk about other things coming back. So stick around, my geeks. I've got Matt Farah. We're going to be right back in just a couple of minutes. Get down. Welcome back once again to Geek Therapy Radio. I've still got Matt Farah, whose initials are MF because he is the mother frigger.
What's going on? Still here?
Of auto aficionados. And Matt, I promised listeners, I have a couple of real questions unrelated to DeLoreans, which for me is a bummer, but for listeners is a plus. I'm just joking. I do like more things than just the DeLorean, believe it or not. So Matt, quick question. I'm going to ask you a couple questions here. Do you prefer classics or modern cars? Like, if you could only, what do you like better, classics or modern?
Well,
might be a loaded question.
It's a bit of a loaded question. I assume if we did the old, if I had to pick one, I would probably take modern cars. But again, it's because I have like back problems, and in general, they're just a lot more comfortable for me. That's all.
Also, it affects the DeLorean, but it affects everything else. Most other classics as well. A lot of classics. People don't realize, who've never driven a classic car, they don't realize how freaking heavy the clutch pedal is in a lot of classic cars. It's unbearable in traffic versus a modern car, my daily driver, and I'll just say it now because it's 8 years old at this point, getting on 8 years old. My daily is an S5, an Audi S5, which I adore. I love. It's like technologically and just ease of driving and just all around performance. It's the best car I've ever had in my entire life. I might not have a better car than that ever. We'll see. I want an R8. That's the new goal. They've
come down. You now R8s are. I mean, look, they're still expensive cars, but
right? Yeah. I'm talking like 09 or 2010. I'd be perfectly happy with a pre-facelift.
Yeah,
R8
for sure. Hang on, this video is gonna look real funny, but I'm about to Conrad, get down.
That's awesome.
Sorry.
This is radio, ladies and gentlemen.
That's my cat. My cat was causing trouble, and I was trying to be all slick about it and like quiet. But like, you're gonna see me like pointing and snapping and stuff in the video, and then you're like, "What is this guy doing?"
Dude, you know what? People are gonna see the same thing and have seen the same thing in my videos. Right now, I'm recording, and my girlfriend's got our cats.
Yeah.
Stabled in the other room, but I'm looking around for a cat that's going to jump behind me on the couch or something like that.
Yeah, no, we have 3 cats and a dog at the moment, and you'll see. So far, I'm thinking at least 2 cats and definitely the dog in this video.
Right. No, that's good. I like that. We're keeping that. I am not fading that out. I'm leaving that in here. Matt, what? See, there's a couple questions here. Okay. I recently bought. So I have 3 vehicles right now. I still have the DeLorean, which I don't really count as well, it is one of my vehicles, of course, but it's an investment. I paid less than 10 grand on it. I'm still 10 in the black with how much I have into it. It's worth way more than I have into it. So that's kind of like a nest egg thing over there.
That's fantastic. That's good for you. I mean, not a lot of people are able to turn profits on DeLoreans. In order to find an investment great, an investment only happens with a DeLorean if you get very lucky and find the perfect car and do the exact perfect things with it, or if you're able to get one, very cheap, and you did a very long time ago. So good for you.
It was before.
We weren't supposed to talk about stupid DeLoreans anymore.
Oh, you're right. Oh, damn it. So, okay.
Shame.
So my daily is that S5.
Audi S5, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But I've got a third in the stable that I bought recently, and I want to get your thoughts on it. It's a 2-pronged question. The third I bought to go next to the DeLorean, so I call them the Silver Sisters, is a 2000 MR2 Spider.
Okay.
Now, that thing, to me at least, is a blast at low speeds. It's because it's not a very quick car.
It's not fast. It's not fast.
No, but just around town, it is an absolute. It's a joy just around town.
Yeah.
So
they're all right.
So I got it for used motorcycle money. I got it pretty cheap. And my experiment was, and I have a feeling that you might dash my dreams here, which is fine because I think I bought it at its bottomed out price. I don't think I would ever lose money on it for how much I spent on it. Because other Japanese cars from the late 90s and mid 90s or so, like turbo MR2s from 1990,
right?
3 or 4,
also known as the good MR2.
Right. So that's my question. Do you see my grand experiment?
It's not a collectible.
Okay.
You should drive that car hard, put it away wet, and when it finally bites the dust, throw it in the garbage. I'm serious. Look, dude. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna blow smoke up your ass.
No, that's fine.
You bought a fun, cheap car.
That's what I got.
That is not collectible.
Okay. That's what I got. That's
maybe
fine.
if you found a museum piece one somewhere, but it's not a collectible, and it should, that car should be a tool for your personal enjoyment. And like you said, you bought it cheap, so you'll probably never lose money.
Right.
And even if you do lose money, it wouldn't be much.
Right.
I think you should maintain that car and drive the snot out of it.
Yep.
And have fun with it and get smiles per hour, as it were.
Yeah.
And you should not baby it too much and not consider it a collectible and romp on it. And if you did, I assume it's a manual.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
And if you do blow it up, the Toyota 2ZZ engine,
Yeah.
also known as the Elise engine, also
Right.
known as the Corolla XRS engine,
Yep.
is, as far as I know, a direct swap. I just drove one, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Since I got it, and since I started talking to other MR2 owners, Spider owners, they're like, dude, you have to put a 2ZZ in there. It's not even a question. You just have to do it because it's fairly inexpensive if you buy a donor engine on eBay or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's like
And
less,
you can get the engines out of Japan as well.
and I think you can do it for roundabouts or less than $2,000.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. The one that I drove, I think the guy bought it that way, so I'm not really sure what the swap costs. All I do know that the swap is easy. I mean, it's as close to a drop right in. Everything bolts right up. I mean, I think you can even run, the stock exhaust and all that kind of stuff. I don't think you need to change very many things.
No.
And for those unaware of what a 2ZZ engine is, as I said, it's from the Lotus Elise. It's a little 4-cylinder engine that Toyota built for Lotus as well as for the XRS, which is a Corolla that no one ever talks about.
Right.
But it's hilarious fun, and the engine is this stupid engine that revs to 8,000 RPM, and VVTi, which is Toyota's version of the Honda VTEC. VTEC kicks in, yo. When the VVTi kicks in, I think it's at 6,600 RPM.
Yeah,
and so it's just a screaming monster of an engine, and that you get, and it fits it really does turn the MR2 into a little more cushy version of a Lotus Elise.
Right.
Which is cool.
So I don't have any plans. See, like I said, I bought this for dirt cheap. I don't have plans. I'm not going to put a bunch of money in it. I'm not going to put a 2ZZ in there. That's my plan because I don't want to be losing money, basically.
No, but if you ended up doing something and sufficiently broke it, you could do that. And also, by the way, I think you could if you were to. If you really want to do the math of a 2ZZ swap, you would sell your stock engine later and make some of that money back.
That is true.
Yeah, because you do have you are still end up with two engines. You
need to stop filling my head with all these ideas because
it's not financially wise. You won't come out ahead by any means, but it's if you are I don't know. Are you mechanically inclined? Do you work on your own cars?
I don't think I can do an engine swap by myself, but I like to change my own spark plugs and oil, and I've changed the I don't want to get this right, PCV valve the other day.
PCV valve, yeah.
I mean, I could do stuff like that.
I don't think I couldn't do an engine swap myself either, so don't feel bad. But,
no. I do not feel emasculated at all.
I don't think it's. I think any basic mechanic could probably do that swap. Yeah.
Right. In a day. Like, it wouldn't be that many hours
fast
to do it.
Yeah, pretty fast. And I'm sure there's shops that specialize in that kind of thing, too.
Yeah, I bet you there's mechanics. When I had my old Bug, my mechanic could literally swap out an engine in an old Bug because it's only four bolts. He said I could do that in the middle of the night blindfolded. I could swap out.
Well, they have competitions for that. You've seen the competitions, right?
I have.
Where it's 30 seconds.
Yeah. What is the world record for an engine swap in a Beetle is mind blowing. When I was a little kid, one of my friends was sleeping over and he was super into cars. His name is Corbin. And I remember him telling me one night, we were 10 years old or something like that. He's like, do you know dragsters go 0 to 300 in like less than 3 seconds or whatever it is, like some stupid ridiculous speed. I didn't believe him. Like all night. And this was before the internet. This is before you could just pop on Google real quick. Like that number was so staggering to me as a little boy of a vehicle going 0 to 300 in less than, what do they do it? You tell me how
they're
fast.
in the threes and the threes and fours. Yeah. Four. I think it's the fours for a top fuel dragster.
It's ridiculous.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Have you watched in person? You ever been in top fuel drag racing in person?
No, not top fuel.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, you must. You absolutely must.
No, it must.
It is motorsport unlike any other. I mean, to sit in the grandstands and actually feel, because you can be in like the last row of the grandstands at a top fuel race and feel the shockwave of the heat coming out of the headers of that engine.
That's
like you
awesome.
can actually feel that like in your chest when one of those cars goes by.
That is awesome.
It's the loudest thing you can possibly imagine.
Now,
it almost like you feel a pressure. It's so cool. And if you are a fan of it, if that's something that got you into cars, you would be doing yourself a great service by attending in person.
Would you give me crap for wearing earplugs?
No, that's mandatory.
That's what I'm thinking.
No, you'll have serious ear problems if you don't. You don't just wear regular earplugs. You wear like the crazy air traffic controller ones, like what you would wear to like a gun range. You wear those. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably drummers wear the same type of. You'd wear earplugs, and then you wear like the drummer's ear muffs, the aircraft mechanic ear muffs. I would absolutely. I wear earplugs when I go to monster truck rallies because
it's louder than that.
I believe it. That's what I'm saying. Like if it's louder than monster truck rallies, which is pretty much straight header from there, anyways. Also, that's loud. But I think.
Well, it's anyways. Like so. Imagine that, right? Same straight header, okay, but instead of 1,500 horsepower, the thing's making 8,000 horsepower. So imagine the size of the explosion coming out of the header that would be required to amplify the power by 6.
I am glad. I'm glad that my camera isn't panned down any more than it is. Because right when you said 8,000 horsepower.
Yeah. And that's a guess. There's no actual dyno in the world that can measure a top fuel dragster or an alcohol funny car. So that's nuts. An estimate based on whatever the math formula is from acceleration.
That's crazy. Matt, thank you so freaking much for being on Geek Therapy Radio.
My pleasure, sir.
Is there anything you want to plug on the way out?
Just the Smoking Tire in all its forms. Our videos every Monday through Friday on YouTube. Our podcast is every Wednesday, both on the audio version on iTunes and all the other places you would download podcasts, whatever your preferred podcast platform is.
Absolutely.
As well as on the Smoking Tire, and then all my social media is blah 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 social media service / the Smoking Tire.
Right.
And if anyone is in Los Angeles and is a wannabe collector of fine vehicles and is going, man, I want to have another car, but I have absolutely no place to keep it. Fall, I think, of 2018, West Side Collector Car Storage will be open. And if you're interested in being on that mailing list, just shoot me a note, matt@thesmokingtire.com, and I will happily add you to our mailing list for that.
Thank you very much. And geeks, if you're even remotely interested in cars, like even if you don't know anything about cars, but you've seen a car go by and you say, that looks neat, go check out the Smoking Tire. I promise you, it is such an approachable way to get into learning more about vehicles because the technology there, if you're a geek, you're just going to love the technology in vehicles. And speaking of geeks, be good to each other, my geeks. Build each other up. Don't tear each other down. Just be good. Let's draw a circle in the sand, not a line in the sand, where we can all come together, enjoy our geek things, whether that's cars, whether that's airplanes, whether that's computers or video games, vinyl records, whatever it is. We're all geeks about something. I didn't even get to the fact that Matt's also a geek about watches. We probably could have talked.
Yeah. I got a watch. Oh, that's coming in January. For the video, I'm holding up the Panerai Luminor Marina 1950, 3 days, very cool watch. I have a watch podcast coming soon in January. It's going to be called Watch and Listen, and it's going to be hosted by myself and a gentleman named Cameron Weiss, who is a watchmaker here in California, founder of the Weiss Watch Company, and they are making watches from scratch, manual, traditional watches from scratch here in Los Angeles. They make all the parts as well. It's not. They don't just drop in, Swiss movement and call it American. It's made, designed in Los Angeles. So Watch and Listen will be coming in January.
We could do a whole show just on watchmaking. You've already
set up. We can do another one if you want later.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, man. Awesome. All right, well, Matt, thank you so much for being here. And like you said it, not me. We're gonna do another one about watches, so I'm gonna hold you to that in the future. All right?
For sure, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Matt. Have a good one.